Wars: The Last Jedi is directed by Rian Johnson and tells the story of hope and how to gain hope back, and it also tells the story of failure and what we can learn from failure. So guys, tonight I am going to go see The Rise of Skywalker. Really can't wait to bring you a review of that. I'm very excited. It's going to be awesome. This movie is hopefully as good as I want it to be. However, the expectations can't be too high. But I've been very happy with Disney Star Wars thus far. I do enjoy Episode 8, The Last Jedi. I think it's one of the best. I think it's a movie that challenges me. And I really enjoy when Star Wars is able to take risks. And I like when a director like Rian Johnson comes in and tries to evolve the series the way that he did in this film. So in Star Wars: The Last Jedi, we're nearing the end of the Skywalker saga. We start out with a great space battle. It is the most character-driven space battle, I think, in the entire saga. I love seeing Poe Dameron do what he can do in his X-Wing, even though he fails at his mission in a way, which you will have to see when you watch this film. But there is an added intensity to the space battle that we've never had in another Star Wars film. And it just really works. The execution of it really works for me. And I love the silent moments, if you will. These moments that Rian Johnson continuously does throughout the film, where it feels like the air just got sucked out of the room and you're just kind of like with the characters. At least in the space battle, you're just kind of with the characters and on the edge of your seat, waiting to see what happens. You feel for them. I think Oscar Isaac is great as Poe Dameron in this moment. I love the jokes that he throws out in the beginning. I found it to be very consistent with this character from The Force Awakens. He kind of started with the joke in that film. In this film, he starts with the joke, and it's to stall the First Order, which I love that. I love the way that he goes about trying to stall them. We're also following Rey in this film, who is set to find Luke Skywalker by General Organa. In the midst of that, she's hoping to find something else out about herself, because she has found out that she has the Force, and she wants to know what Luke Skywalker would have to say about that. And she kind of wants insight on everything going on, and she wants to find her place in the story throughout the entirety of this film. And Daisy Ridley does a phenomenal job in this role. She is such a good performer as this character. I think that she really adds a layer of depth to this character in this film that she didn't have in the first film. In The Force Awakens, the first time we saw Rey. And I think a lot of that is due to Rian Johnson. He just knew how to mature the character after everything that she had gone through in the Force Awakens film. Obviously, John Williams' score is always going to be great, but this time I think it was just top-notch. It was exceptional. I think he really outdid himself on this one. I'm hoping for the same thing in The Rise of Skywalker. I want it to improve each time. He's a great composer. He's one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest of all time. And I love the themes that he added to this film. None as iconic as some of the ones in the original trilogy or even the prequel trilogy. As much as I talk badly about those films, as many problems as I have with them, I think that the score is one of the things that really works about him. John Williams really does a great job scoring those films, and he's made themes that are iconic. So who knows, maybe within time he will make these themes iconic, or these themes will become iconic. But I did enjoy what he did with the score in this one, and I think that it really does add a lot to the intensity of the film, and I think it just is something that's gonna be iconic. So if you've been on the internet within the past 2 years, you all know that this is the most controversial Star Wars film of all time. Some of the decisions that are made here just didn't land with people. For me, I like when a film takes risks. I like to not expect things. No matter the cost of what it means. If it threw me for a loop, then fine, go for it, you know. But to me, the decisions do make sense in the story. It does go the other way from what The Force Awakens was trying to set up, but it still makes sense in the story. If you watch the two back to back, they actually do work together very well. I think it is a nice companion piece to The Force Awakens, and it is the next film's job to put these two pieces even more together, or put all three pieces into one. but I do love the risks that this film takes. I think it is fantastic. I love the unexpectedness of it. In my theater, when I went to go see it, there was quite a few moments where people actually cheered quite loud, and and there was a lot of because they weren't expecting things, and I enjoy that a lot, and I think that that's kind of the thrill of this movie. But on the same hand, it tells a story about the Force and the philosophy of the Force and the Jedi, and it calls out a lot of the problems of the prequels. And I don't think people like that. It kind of does it in a very meta type of way, but it still does make sense to the story and where the character of Luke Skywalker is now, which a lot of people did not agree with watching this film. I think that the decisions made with Luke here are very, very cool, because if he's going to age, then there's going to be things that happen to him between the time we last saw him and now. And just because we don't know those things doesn't mean that these are bad decisions or that this is inconsistent with his character. We just don't know a lot of these things that had happened to him to make him what he is in this film. And I don't want to give that away for people that haven't seen it, but he's on a very different path than the Luke Skywalker we knew from the original trilogy, and I found that to be quite amazing. And I think it really pushed Mark Hamill as a performer, and I love the performance that he gave. He gave 100%. Mark Hamill is hands down the performance to see in this film. There are three in particular that are great: Daisy Ridley, Mark Hamill, and Kylo Ren, or Adam Driver, who plays Kylo Ren, which I will get to now. So Kylo Ren in this film is struggling. He's a broken villain. He has been since The Force Awakens. In this film, he really, really is trying to become a full villain. He wants to embrace, becoming a villain and becoming the monster that he believes he is. And that is all because of the seduction of Supreme Leader Snoke, who we don't really know a lot about, which is fine. We just have to know that he is a powerful Force user who is trying to seduce Kylo Ren to the dark side. And I find that to be one of the more fascinating aspects of the film. And I like that Kylo Ren has this continuous need to impress Snoke. And Snoke really tears him down in this one. In the last film, we saw Kylo Ren get bested by Rey, who'd never picked up a lightsaber before, but yet she somehow beat him. And I think that the way that Snoke, touches on that with Kylo Ren, it really tears him down. It humiliates him. He's not ready to, be the Sith that Snoke thinks he should be, or not the Sith, but the villain, I guess, or the person who moves up in the ranks, or the next Supreme Leader, or whatever Snoke wants him to be. And I find that to be very interesting. And I think we're going to get a lot more answers on who this Snoke guy is in the next film. Because we really don't in this one. I'll tell you at least that. And I really am kind of curious to find out who he is and his backstory. And it is the next film's job to answer that at this point. And I'm excited to find out more about that. Now, it's not to say we don't get any backstory on Luke Skywalker in this film. We kind of do. We understand why Kylo Ren fell to the dark side, why he ceased to be Ben Solo, who was Luke Skywalker's student, and turned to the dark side, fell to the dark side. We see that in this film, and they show it so beautifully, and I like that you get three different takes on it. You kind of get Luke Skywalker's take on it, you get Kylo Ren's take on it, and you also get the real take on it, the genuine one. And that is very interesting to me. I really like how this film explores the gray area between the light side and the dark side. That's something that Star Wars has never really gone into as deeply as this film does. It doesn't blatantly say it's like this gray area, but on the same hand, there's characters that are on the light side that are being pulled toward the dark side, and then there's characters on the dark side being pulled toward the light side. And I like that middle ground, and then sometimes those characters, without giving anything away, may have to work together to achieve a goal. and I really like that about this film. The planet of Octo is beautiful. First of all, the cinematography in this film is just beautiful all the way throughout. I think it is the most gorgeous looking Star Wars movie. I think that's undeniable. It's pretty. I love how pretty it is. But the planet of Octo is one I want to touch on in particular because this is probably one of my new favorite planets in Star Wars because it is so pretty. Just the way it looks on screen, it comes off very beautiful to me. We got a little bit of it in Force Awakens. We get to explore it here more. I like the details they show in the water of it. I like the first Jedi temple that is on this planet. That's not a spoiler. That was in Force Awakens, but you will see the first Jedi temple, and it holds the books of the original Jedi texts, and I found that to be very, very interesting. This movie doesn't make anything easy for you. It makes it to where you really have to think about what it was actually about after watching it. And when you figure it out for yourself, you will hopefully love it. And I think that that's why there's such a divisive nature toward it, is because some people figured it out and they're like, well, I guess I really don't like that, or they thought they figured it out. I think if you actually figure it out, you will love it. I'm not going to give you the answers because I think it's just something that should be discussed for years and years and years. And I might not even be right on what I think it's about. So I'm hoping I got the message correctly, but there's so many different ways to interpret the film. That's my favorite type of film, are the ones that you have to think to interpret it properly, and it makes you think for years. And I hope people do think about this for years, and I think that this film will get better with age. The more and more people think about how incredibly unique it was in the Star Wars series. There's something Rian Johnson does in this film when it comes to lightsaber sequences that we've never quite seen before, where he kind of just lets the camera just sit there and lets the actors do all the work, and it makes for great action. It's these head-to-toe wide shots that I just love so friggin' much, and we've just never seen that in Star Wars, and the actors do a great job, particularly Daisy Ridley and Adam Driver do a great job executing those scenes very well. You could tell they put in a lot of work to make these lightsaber sequences work, to where we don't have to cut between them so much. There's just a few cuts in these lightsaber sequences, and I found that to be incredible, and that's something we've never seen in Star Wars before, and it's very unique, and I love the practicality of that. Instead of using a lot of special effects, it just flows. Another thing about this film that I admire is it is the darkest Star Wars film out there. I know that a lot of people will debate that just because they don't like this movie, but even if you don't like this movie, I think it's hard to deny that it is the darkest Star Wars film yet. It has the darkest themes yet. And I think that that's awesome, and I felt the sort of horror coming out of that to some degree. It's got a lot of very dark themes and a lot of things that children certainly won't understand, and that might be a problem to some people, because I know a lot of people really consider these films to be with kids, but this film is a lot deeper than what kids are going to understand, I believe. But this is definitely a more adult Star Wars film. However, there's a lot in this film for kids to love. There's a lot of fun stuff. There's a lot of great humor. There's a lot of great creatures and, things that kids will love about this. And I'm not saying kids are stupid. They'll understand some of the themes for sure. And I really like that young ladies, they look up to Rey the way that they do. And I think that this film will give them something from Rey, from that character, that they're really going to look up to even more, and I find that to be really fascinating. I like that not all the questions are answered, but they are just kind of like, here, ponder on this, and think about how this could be possible. I enjoy that about this film quite a bit. There's a new character named Rose, and I think Kelly Marie Tran does an excellent job playing her. I actually really enjoyed her character, what her character does in this film that is so subtle but means the world. It really does. She does a very subtle thing midway through this movie, and it really does mean a lot to what the future of Star Wars could be. And it means a lot in a weird way for the legacy of Luke Skywalker. And I think that that is pretty cool when you connect all the pieces. There's one thing in particular in this film that really connects your three separate storylines that are going on, and I thought it was brilliant. It was this one event that happens, and I won't give it away, but it connected all three storylines happening in this film that weren't connected prior, and I love when that happens, and it made my heart just sink in a good way, and I love it, and I can't wait until you see this if you haven't seen it yet. But the film is 2 years old, so hopefully you have seen it. But I'm just saying, I don't want to give it away just in case. Laura Dern's in this film. She does a pretty good job playing Holdo, and I think that her character is going to be hard for people to take in. I think that she's supposed to get on your nerves and supposed to get under your skin in a lot of ways. And that's not to say she's a villain. I'm just saying that you don't know how to take her when you first see her, and you will figure that out later on. And I think you'll enjoy that very much. This is Carrie Fisher's last real present performance as Carrie Fisher. And I think that she delivered something so beautiful. And I actually did tear up at one point when watching this film. It was just kind of odd that she had a seat in here that was so fitting to what happened to her in real life, but it was almost kind of like a really awesome goodbye, you know? And I think she did a fantastic job with that. And there's something else that Leia does in this film that we've never been able to see Leia do before that caused quite a bit of controversy, just due to the execution of it, I suppose. I actually liked the way it was executed. It hit me very, very well. And I'm not going to give that away either if you haven't seen it. But hey, I thought it was magnificent. And it really kind of gave me the sense of wonder that I've been wanting, you know, from these Star Wars films since the originals that I haven't necessarily had. I've always loved Star Wars, but this really instilled the sense of wonder in me, this moment with Leia that I'm talking about. And I think you'll know what I'm talking about too, because you probably won't like it, because most people don't. But to me, the Star Wars films are fantasies, they're fairy tales, and they are supposed to instill that sense of wonder in you. And I find this moment in particular very, very compelling in that regard. There are a lot of new Force abilities shown in this film, things that are done with the Force that is also causing quite a bit of controversy with people. They don't really think that the Force should advance as these films go on, but I really love what they do with the Force in this film. I think that the things that are done with the Force in this film are surprising, but really drive the story forward. And I think that that's where it can be okay to advance the Force to, you know, these unbelievable places where it drives the story forward. That's fine. And I love the Force. I'm obsessed with the Force. I love learning new things about the Force. It really is the driving factor of these films in a lot of ways. The Force is kind of a character on its own when you really think about it. And I found that to be awesome when we saw some of the things that happen here. And I can't give it away, but man, it's a shock when you see it, but it's awesome. And I loved it. This film is very original. It tries to get rid of a lot of the tropes that Star Wars has been kind of using in a lot of the films, and I love that. I love that it's trying to evolve Star Wars, and I think that that is a great thing that Rian Johnson did, to evolve the films. Not delete what came before, but evolve them. Show us new things, introduce new ideas to evolve this series, and that really works for me. And we do see new planets in here. I already mentioned Octo. We get to go to a place called Canto Bight. It's kind of like this casino planet, and I actually really, really enjoyed the look of this planet, and I actually liked all the stuff in there. We meet Benicio del Toro's character, DJ, in this part of the film, and I think Benicio del Toro did something very unique with his character, and I think that it really works for the story, and it kind of plays into the theme of failure and how failure is the best teacher, and that goes for just about everybody in this film. And I like the Canto Bight stuff. I think that Canto Bight's a cool planet. It kind of shows how the rich in the galaxy are very greedy, and that kind of parallels to our own world. And I love when Star Wars can parallel to real life. I think that that works really well. And there's another planet in this film called Crate, and I think it is one of the greatest planets in all of Star Wars. It plays so well on screen. It looks incredible visually. Rian Johnson's use of red in this film is unbelievable. I don't know how he thought of that and, came up with how to, do the color schemes in this film. But the Crate is an unbelievable looking planet. We have things called ski speeders, and even though they're like a cheaper version of, I guess, any other vehicle that we've seen in Star Wars, or of the speeder bikes, more or less, I think that the ski speeders are very, very cool, and I just love the aesthetic that they offer to the film, and I found that to be incredible. This is a well-edited, very differently paced, but I think well-paced Star Wars film, and I love it so much. I've loved it almost since the moment I saw it. I don't really want to say that, though, because I was very conflicted. Even though I was leaning more toward the positive side when I saw it, I was still very conflicted on how I felt when I walked out of the theater, and this film kind of made me feel like no other movie has ever. It gave me a weird feeling, but when I figured out why, it just I got something special out of this. This movie caused a lot of controversy. It is a very powerful film, and it's done a lot to the Star Wars fan base that, kind of sucks, but on the same hand, as somebody who loves this film, so be it. I've accepted what's happened to the fan base, and it's nobody's fault, I guess. If you don't like the movie, don't like the movie. I just love this movie. I think it is fantastic. I've rewatched it quite a few times, and I can honestly say it really is perfection. Rian Johnson executed the vision he had in his mind for this perfectly. And as a singular movie, it really does work. And I enjoy it for that reason. And for that, I'm going to give Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi, an A+. Guys, I cannot wait to see Rise of Skywalker tonight. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Ben Don Martino. If you want to support the channel, please hit that subscribe button below. Hit the like button below. Leave some feedback in the comments section. That's much appreciated. I will also be leaving my Twitter and Instagram in the description below, so be sure to follow me there. Thanks a lot, guys, and I will see you guys next time.